Is there anybody else who'd like to speak that you've brought with you? Nope. Okay. Board members, anybody want to talk or any information? Add on? Brad, you're on that board?
Yeah. Obviously, with some of this newer information that came out at our last meeting that, Brian brought to our attention with the amount of the donation coming in to the Friends of Libby for this project brings it up to, I think, rough figures, they're sitting at about the 70% right now with this donation coming in to what we have sitting in there. So we're kind of, as a Friends group, we're really hoping, and I'm going to support that we revisit the MOU here tonight and consider, moving forward with it so that they can go ahead and start the rest of the fundraising. And depending on how the discussion goes, I think Brian has some ideas on how to, go along with our portion of the fundraising, the matches in it and stuff like that. So I'll let Brian speak to that part of it. But, before we get into any motion or anything, I'll just have that discussion off with that. So.
Thank you. Anybody else want to say anything?
The numbers I looked at came out this way. In order to follow the Libby at a 7-to-30 ratio, knowing that they now have a donation for $1 million going in, we would have to do a warrant article in 2022 for $192,855. Then we would have to have a second warrant article in 2023 for $182,178. And then we would have to have a third warrant article in 2024 for $194,967. And that would bring us right up to our portion, which would be $870,000, which is 30% of $2.9 million. The only thing that I would like to see before we start asking the taxpayers to contribute the money is a good, credible business plan, something that a business would take to a financial institution if they were going to get a loan for a new project or a new business they were going to start. So I'd like to see that. And I'd like to see an economic viability study, something that shows with the museum expanded and using their business plan to show all the options that they've talked about, the education and everything else going forward, that we see that they're going to be able to attract more donors, more lectors, rotate artifacts and do other things so that the museum doesn't stay static as it's been, that it keeps continuing to grow and evolve. And I think that's their plans. So those things I would like to see going forward. I wish that I knew more what the citizens of Wolfeboro wanted right now. I would have loved to have just a petition warrant article last year go out to see whether the citizens of Wolfeboro want to expand the museum, if they're for its expansion, if they're for the selectmen continuing to be the trustees of the museum, but that hasn't happened. So I'm okay with the MOU. I might be happier if we pushed the warrant articles back to 2023, 24, and 25, did a petition warrant article this year that showed, do the citizens of Wolfeboro, are they for the museum and are they going to be backing it later financially? If we get a resounding yes from them that they love the museum, then we know going forward we're not going to hit a wall. So those are some of my thoughts over it. That being said, I don't want to be the group that gets in the way of $1 million donation to a charitable organization. if us signing the MOU facilitates them having successful fundraising, that's something that I think is important.
Okay, I'm willing to go now. I believe in the strategic partnership. I have from the beginning, and I believe in the 70-30% split is a good deal for the taxpayers and voters of the town. I am thrilled that you have $1 million donation. Job well done. Where I run into problem is when you ask me to put cash in like a savings account. I really believe that you need to raise your 70% and then ask the voters whether they are willing to spend their 30%. A petition warrant article without any dimension of what we're talking about, I think would do you disservice. And so why did I come to that kind of a conclusion? Well, I'm on the CIP committee, and so I will go through some of the items that we have before us. But I look at our cash spending, which is $2 million a year, and I believe it first goes to critical assets. That's electric, that's water, that's sewer, that's roads. Well, electric and water are taken care of through the user fees, but the roads and the sewer are on the tax rate. So that's my first group. My second group is what I call major assets to the running of the community and safety, and that's your police, that's your fire, that's your town facility. And the last category is community supporting assets, which I put the Libby in. So I looked at, based on what's on this year's CIP, 1.3 million is scheduled for the annual road. And before I go through this, obviously the board has to make cuts here. I'm just telling you what's on the CIP. There is 55 for the Bay Street sidewalks. That Taylor Homes have asked us for years to get sidewalks there. That's some engineering. South Main Street engineering, we have a pipe going down South Main Street to the bridge. It's 100+ years old. We have a water line that is aged also. Dispatch council for the police department, that's $50,000. The fire truck capital reserve is $196,000. The public works truck capital reserve is $185,000. There is a request for $150,000 for the public safety building and $100,000 for the maintenance buildings in the town, and that's a capital reserve. That comes to $2,886 million. It does not take care of the Bridge Falls path lights, which is $210,000. The Abenaki Ski annual capital reserve at $74,000, and any money putting into the dockside parking lot. If we just add those, that's $2.47 million. I haven't even put in all those different requests under the community supporting assets. That's where I run into the problem. You've raised your $2 million. I will put, guaranteed, I'll put that warrant article asking the voters for their 30%. I cannot, when I look at what's on the CIP, there are what I call critical major assets that'll take up the $2 million. So that's where I am. I will not support the MOU. If you took off the periodic payments, I would support it absolutely. So that's where I am. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to say? Luke?
I've been thinking about this a lot, and my position has been that I feel that the Libby, no doubt, is a valuable resource for the town of Wolfeboro, and has provided years and generations of service. And Wolfeboro is a museum-based town, That said, this recent development with the fundraising is very impressive. And balancing that with what Linda just spoke about and what we're facing this year with potentially $2.47 million in expenses is tough to do, and to hold this line item for this coming warrant article. I mean, could it be done in 2023? I would prefer to push it out to then. Do I support the Libby? Of course I do. That's not even a question. And I know everyone on this board supports the Libby, and the community supports the Libby. So this is a really tough decision.
Okay. Anybody else who'd like to make a comment? Hearing none, seeing none.
I'll just add on something here too. We talked about these annual contributions on the town end here. And Luke made kind of a good point. If we looked at it, that at the end of 2021, which is, this December 31st, the Friends of Libby come to us and say, okay, this is what we have in the bank now with our commitments and stuff. If it's 1.15 million right now, it might be 1.2 million, whatever it is, then we would look at that time, we'd look at putting it in the next year, putting the warrant article together for it, so that we're not, there's going to be a delay of a year there to move the money, or to ask the voters for the money there. That would give us the time to really look at and see where we could fit everything into the CIP. As you said, there's a lot of stuff in this on our plate here for that. So with that in mind, I don't know if that makes any difference or not, or what, but that type of approach to, so.
Thank you, Brad. Dave?
Well, I think I've said before, there's never going to be a good year for any of this stuff. We're always going to have these things on our plate. I think we ought to just approve the MOU, go to the taxpayers with a warrant article for our share for this next year. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But if we keep postponing this, we postponed other stuff, keep postponing everything, the money, so projects keep going up in cost. I'm ready to move forward with it this year.
I have another, suggestion, and I don't know whether you have such a large amount, it wouldn't be possible, but we had one Friends of Appomattox. They got to a certain point and went out and got a line of credit. Turned around, we were able to put the whole project out because they met their percentage, and then they fundraised to get the end of the money that they needed. This is a lot larger amount, but I just wanted to put that out as a possibility, because this board does support the Libby. And I think that we have to make rough decisions with where we spend that $2 million. So that's where I am. I wish you well in doing this. That's where I am. Brian?
Would the Friends of the Libby consider amending the MOU to change the date for our first payment from the town in 2023? Just a question. You've heard a little bit of...
I believe the MOU is written with a good bit of flexibility on the town's part. We put in TBDs for the next 3 years, and if it's the decision of the town that it be 0 for 2022 and the appropriate amounts for 2023 and 2024, or whatever, what time frame and schedule the town feels that they can true up their 30%. It's not meant to be any sort of ultimatum or lock you down. It's just, here's how we think we can achieve our fundraising with a high degree of certainty. And we're, in this partnership, we would like to have some input we can give our donors as to what the town envisions coming up with their 30%. So if the TBD for 1 year is 0 and it gets there in the end, I think that that would be an acceptable solution.
Luke?
I would be more comfortable with if we could push it off to 2023. I would, same sense, I know 2023 is going to be another $2 million, and so, but.
Yeah. Yep. Go ahead. Yep.
Devils in the details. And the MOU is pretty clear, and I think appropriately so, that it's a 3-year timeline. And if the town said you want to do 4 in years 2 and 3, but it sounds to me like with all the items on the CIP, that's going to be a push too. So as I recall, last year, 100,000 was in the CIP, got pulled. So maybe the town puts in a nominal number like 100,000 this year, which in the scheme of things, I think would be doable, so that so everyone knows we're moving forward within a 3-year time plan. And then the town puts in the other 2 numbers, TBD, that you're comfortable with to get to your share, which 870,000. Brian, that's the exact number? Yeah. Thank you. I think the time is of the essence, and the longer the collective we, and it is a collective we, wait, the more trouble we're going to have getting this done. And again, the part of our vision is to, if we can get the MOU passed tonight, then we can put together a working group and talk about these other things, getting the items that Brian has spoken to, the strategic plan, the economic feasibility study, and get an authority to help us consult with us to how can we move it from the town roles to the private roles and save the town that money on a long-term basis.
Here's another thought that I've been struggling with. By putting in those periodic payments, the town, the people who are here in the next 3 years pay for this. If you bond it, it's over a 20-year period, and those people who are here over those 20 years pay for it. So that's another way of looking at it, and it's one of the things I have sorted out, and I believe that usually our bigger projects we bond, and we bond it because it's for the people who are going to use it, and those are the people over that 20 years time span. I'll tell you, you give me $2 million or you're 70%, I'd vote tonight to put that on the warrant. I believe in what you're doing is right. I just cannot, with what I see, pledge, and I'm not going to pledge to you that I'm going to put money in next year when I don't know where we're going to be. You raise it all. I think that's a good deal for the voters and the taxpayers, and I think they should weigh in at that point. So, any other board members? Do I have a board member who might want to make a motion on something here? We'll make it as a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. Any vote that we take should be done back at a Board of Selectmen's meeting, or we can get out of our trustees meeting and into a board meeting if somebody would like to make a motion, or any further discussion here while we're still Libby trustees.
Yeah, I'll make a motion as a trustees, to recommend to the Board of Selectmen to support and sign the MOU. Do we want to spell out the to-be-determined part of it in this group here, or do you want to do that at the Board of Selectmen's meeting?
I think that really needs to be at the Board of Selectmen, because we'll be committing town funds.
Okay,
I think that's a Board of Selectmen, but just, a motion to sign the MOU, and then we'll come out and do that.
So
Does that
I'll leave
make
it at
sense
that.
to everybody?
I'll second that.
Dave, second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Those opposed? Right. So we're now out. I'd like a motion to come out of the trustees of the Libby Museum meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We are now in public session. Board of Selectmen's meeting. Is there somebody who would like to make a motion?
Again, I'll make a motion to sign the MOU as presented to us tonight by the Friends of Libby Museum for the strategic partnership with the Friends of Libby Museum for restoration and expansion of the Libby Museum. Now's when you want to get the details of the to-be-determined stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I want now. Now comes
Thanks.
the nitty-gritty, Brad.
Now the pressure's on.
Yes.
My inclination is to put the money in the following year after the goal that they reach is presented to us, to whatever number that is, to achieve our 30% match. So at the end of this fiscal year of 2021, we would present in 2022, preparing for our 2023 budget, what would be our portion to maintain our 30%.
So is that, you're
Position.
talking about Brian's 192,000?
Yeah, I just did a little math on what they got there right now and with what we have in the bank. I came up with 142,000 to be at 30%. If they raise 420, actually, no, I take that back. If at the end of 2021, they're sitting at 1.15 million, our share of that is 345,000, which would mean we'd be putting together a warrant article for 45,000 next year for the 2023 budget.
That's your number?
Pardon?
Is that your number?
That's the number I came up with quickly here doing math.
That's fine.
So I'd leave it a percentage when I do that. So at the
Okay.
end of 2021,
So we're talking about a 2022 warrant article, am I correct?
no, 2023 warrant article.
2023
would hope-
warrant article.
We would
Okay,
make
thank you.
that presentation for the warrant article in 2022, preparing for the 2023 budget,
Okay,
to maintain our 30% share. That makes sense?
okay, to maintain our 30% share, okay.
I'll second that for discussion.
Brad and Luke. Okay, Luke,
45.
you got discussion?
Yeah, Brad, if that was, that, it does make me more comfortable. However, would we also include in that, if we were going to do that, like the items that Brian mentioned as part of as we meet next year,
A business plan and an economic viability study.
Economic feasibility study?
Feasibility or viability. And I happened to find a company called Oxford Economics, and they have studied very large museums and some very small museums. They have a huge portfolio of things that they study, and they basically look at where an institution is now, where it plans to be, and what the institution will do and where it will end when it gets to that point. Will it become a bigger financial drain? Will it become more viable to donors and have the ability to attract more clientele? And they do a great job doing studies of that nature. Don't have to use them, but it is one company that I found that's really very reputable. International company. They do enterprises and nonprofits all over the world.
I guess I would be a little bit more comfortable if we were going to bond it.
Yeah.
I get into the trouble when we get into, and that's why I go to the end. We have 300,000, looks like to me if they had 1.6, we'd need 480. That's 180 out of the cash. That's where, it comes back to that figure every time. That's why I like the one that it's, clear. They raise their money, we go forward. I think that's real sellable. By that time, we have whatever kind of an agreement. 180 out of our cash is a big hunk. So I'm still at the same place. You haven't put enough on it for me to, but that's just me. So what I have is your motion that we're going to sign the MOU. It's going to be a 2023 warrant article to match our 30% of what they've raised. And that is what you said. Brian was hoping that we'd get a business plan and an economic feasibility, viability study also in that. I don't know if you want to add that or not, or whether Luke wants to have that added. You two have got to decide that.
Yeah, I would think if somebody wants to make a motion for an amendment to put those in there. I think, would that be the proper way to do it?
I think that would be a good way to do it.
So,
All right, to amend the motion so that it includes a credible business plan that would be accepted by a financial institution and an economic viability study to know the final feasibility of the museum and its continued growth and development.
Do I have a second to that?
I'll second that.
Okay, so it's Brian. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I will abstain. Okay. So now our motion is that we're going to sign the MOU. First payment in 2023 will be a warrant article for our 30%. Before we do that, we need a credible business plan and an economic feasibility study or viability study. That's what's on the floor. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
aye.
Opposed?
They're taking the pulse of the town regarding the Libby. Our warrant article, I believe it was 2 years ago, Article 12, if I can read it in the dark here, to see if the town will vote to establish a Libby Museum Capital Reserve Fund for the purpose of renovating, expanding, and repairing the Libby Museum, and further, to raise the sum of $300,000 to be deposited in the Capital Reserve Fund to be under the custody of the trustees of the trust fund. The selectmen are designated as agents to expend these funds, and I believe the Board of Selectmen recommended that 3-1. The Budget Committee recommended it 5-3, and the town voted in favor 756 yes and 547 no. So Brian, you've got your pulse. It has been supported. I believe it would still be supported. And although you've made a step forward, I don't think there's anything that should stop this project from going forward full steam. And it's too bad that it's had to go through this to get to this point. Thank you.
Is there anybody else, either in the audience or on watching us virtually, who'd like to give a public comment? Seeing and hearing none, we'll move on. Agenda. Next item on the agenda is the bulk vote. We have 2 manifests, September 3rd, which is 330 $2,503.75. September 10th, we had $1,016,914.70. We have Haynes Hill Road, that's a intent to cut. Property tax abatement and refunds, we have a current use application. And then we have in here the MS1 and MS-1V Lower Beach Pond Village. The MS1 for the town is $2,388,689,066, which is an increase of $5,820,418. The Lower Beach Pond is $6,342,200, and that's up $118,000. Okay. Then we have the highway grant for the police department of $2,900. And we're asking the town get permission for the town manager to sign the application. Exotic aquatic plant control grant, milfoil committee. Again, we're authorizing the town manager to sign and submit that application. And we have 2 betterment assessments. Board members, anybody have any corrections, changes? Hearing none, can I have a motion?
Move to approve bulk vote items A through H.
Do I have any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. We have no appointments. Next item of business is new business.
Changes.
Does any board members have any questions on this investment policy? Hearing none, can I have a motion to accept?
Move.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next item on the agenda is the monthly budget report.
This is the August report, actual versus budgets. We are 8 months through the year, currently at 70.4%, which is slightly above the average. Still, the town manager and I met with most department heads this week talking about the 22 budget, and we were not made aware of any issues in either the revenues or the appropriations at this time. So, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
I have one question, and this is just on revenue, and it's on page 3, and it's the dockside rent and the water tower lease armory rent, and that's at 53 and 58%. Are we missing, did something get misposted there? It seems like we should be higher than that.
I do not have that answer, but I will look into that and send you an email.
Okay, thank you. That's the only thing I had. Any other board members? Thank you again. Nice report.
Thank you.
All right, next item, the Pop Whalen reopening plan. And we had, as you sat down, hot off the press from Christine, a policy. And I see us as discussing it tonight. I do not see us implementing it tonight unless there is a strong feeling on the board they want to. So Christine, you want to come on up?
Christine Collins, Parks and Rec Director. So what I have before you, I kind of went through the plan we had at the end of the year, and I just edited it with some things that I felt we could ease up a little bit. So right now, there's no current guidelines in other rinks except for Concord has, you have to wear masks. I did hear the Ham has masks in the locker rooms, but there's nothing concrete on paper that I've found. Concord, yes, they definitely have a thing, but other than that, nobody else has one. So looking at the numbers rising, we're just a little nervous because we're supposed to open up October 12th, which is the Tuesday after, what holiday is coming up?
Columbus Day.
Columbus Day. The Tuesday after Columbus Day. And we just want to make sure that we're prepared for that. The schools, I looked at the Governor Wentworth High School, Governor Wentworth Regional School, their guidelines. So I think that might be as part of your packet in there as well.
It is.
The
It
Safer
is.
at
Yep.
Home. So
Yep.
I did take some of their suggestions in here. I did walk around the Pop Whalen Ice and Art Center and looked at the spots we had last year. I believe we started off with 27 and up that. We felt if we were to put 3 feet distancing, we could get 60 spots in there. That would still leave the lobby free. So when people were using the restrooms, they weren't interacting. And it would keep the athletes in their locker rooms so they would be safe as well. One of the things I put for the COVID screenings, we wouldn't be screening at the door per se. That's something they would do at their house. But I wasn't sure about if we did have a case of COVID, what that looked like. I kind of took some of it from the school district, but there were different options, so I weren't sure where we wanted to go there. Spectators, I just changed it. We were saying 1 spectator per child. We upped it to 2 with the max capacity of 60. Cleaning protocols, we would still clean everything like we're supposed to. We're hoping with how we have it, we're going to do the same thing with the locker rooms where we bounce teams back and forth. So when one team's in a locker room, we'll move them into another locker room while we're cleaning that locker room, so there's no time problem with that. And then public skating, we were looking at still keeping it as reservations, just because if we are limiting the number in the building, we felt like we didn't want people to show up and then be turned away because we were at capacity. We typically start off with hockey and then we increase the public skating because they're still in the fall time of month. So they're out doing fairs and enjoying the outside before we really have a lot of people using the facility. I think that's about it. So I was hoping that you guys could look at it and we could kind of figure out where we're at.
Are we going to have the mask based on the school district policy where if it's substantial and high, people need to wear masks? If it's moderate or low, they don't? And that we are going to accept that clear plastic shield as a face mask?
Yes. And I did put that in there. You can't see it on the paper, but I believe in the email version, you can actually click on the link and it brings you to that CDC number page. And that was what the school had referenced as well.
Does anybody else? Brad?
Yeah, Christine, looking at the schools, what do they call it there, stay open plan.
Yes.
On page 12 there, they talk about the sports and being, no mask required for outdoor sporting events. Well, obviously, the hockey rink, I guess you're going to be considered indoors. And with the school having a mandatory mask, how's that going to affect how it happens here? Like, say, if another school comes in to play them on a hockey game, and they have a different program, will Pop Whalen be enforcing, the mask, whether it's just the shield or whatever they're mandatory because Kingswood has it, or?
Yep, so last year, we actually required masks on and off the ice. And some people opted, they were using the the face shield, so that was an option for them. But anyone who came to our rink, we were enforcing those rules. So no matter what they do at their own home rink, whatever our rink is enforcing, we try to get that out. So also the 60 limit person or whatever, or 27, They were told last year that was in play, so they would have to make arrangements because there was only so many spots available.
I guess we're getting at too is, so that'd be for the Kingswood sports. Say, I don't know about the youth hockey program, if they have mandatory, or they'd be following what our protocols are, or So there are, I guess this way, is our protocol's going to be different than what Kingswood has here, or we're going to match it?
We were looking as following the guidelines of the Governor Wentworth School
Yep.
District. That doesn't say we necessarily have to follow it, but that's what I was kind of basing it on, just because looking at other rinks, a lot of people don't have things in play, and I just wanted to be prepared before the season. Like, I just don't want to open the doors, everyone comes in, and then we're shut down because we weren't being on top of stuff. But whatever we decide, it will go to all users who enter that facility. It's not just like, okay, this person gets this person gets that. It's whatever we're doing, it goes for everyone.
Blanket coverage, yep.
Yep.
Okay.
And I think one of our users is Brewster, so they were, like last year, for example, they didn't allow spectators at their games. So that was something we did allow so many, but they did not allow it. So if they want to be a little bit more strict, they could do that, but they at least have to follow the rules that we create.
Okay.
Answered my question.
Okay.
You're going to have a baseline, and
Yeah.
people can be more strict, but they have to at least follow your baseline. Doesn't
Correct.
matter if it's a tournament, what town they come from,
Right.
high school, Back Bay, or Brewster.
Right.
It's all the same.
Yep, and I am happy to report that last year, my staff did an amazing job. We did have cases of COVID that were in the building, but we did not have to shut down the building. We followed protocol, and I think they did a really good job. So, hoping to have that same thing this year.
Good to have you.
I will give you a little information out of what happened at Dover. My grandson this year played at Dover. First week, they had a case. One team is off the ice for 10 days, and by this week, there are 2 cases. And so I think it's good that we have a way to say, if there's an outbreak, what's going to happen. So that team that they had the outbreak was off the ice for 10 days. The whole rink wasn't shut down. It was just that group. So I like that added. You know, last year, most of the kids skated with that clear shield. That was what the U.S. Hockey Association had recommended. In fact, I got it from Back Bay Hockey was one of the things that they had put out. You know, I don't think people are going to particularly like wearing the shield or mask, but if we allow the shield, I think they'll deal with it, because that's, you know, just a different face covering. And I feel comfortable with that would do what we might need to do. So I don't want us to have, unless people feel they want to vote on it, I really think people should have a chance to go through this. And then Jim and I were talking about sticking it on our September 22nd meeting after everybody's had a chance, and then we can take a vote at that time. So if you have any questions, you can contact Christine or Jim, and we'll bring it back at our next meeting. Okay. All right. Thank you, Christine. Next item on the agenda is the Brewster Beach ordinance discussion. And you will have a sheet in there with a bunch of funny numbers. That's my sheet. I was just how I took all the comments that were in our minutes and all the comments that were in the emails and tried to make some sense out of them. The way I looked at it is the majority of people wanted a unified policy. So this is where I kind of came down to. We have in front of us the warrant article that was presented last year before they put the word "not" in it. So I just took that as a draft warrant article. So with this draft warrant article, if we wanted, we could hold another public hearing. We could change the what I have here. We could use this and put out a 2022 warrant article, or we could do nothing and see what happens. So I'm not quite sure where the board wanted to go. I didn't want us to lose this, so I just brought it back. Christine did a nice job of having her staff look at the different beaches around the area, because that was something that we were asked whether we took any surveys. I did look at Laconia, and I found Laconia very interesting. They had their Weirs Beach, which they control by their parking lot. That can take up to 1,500 visitors. They had a Peachy. That is a small beach. It's open to everybody, but right on the website it says they have E. coli problems, and it's an area where there is no good change of water. Bartlett is open to all, and then there was, I think, Bond Beach that was residents only. So they had a real mix. And then you can see, the other ones were done by Christine's staff, and it was just a way to kind of look at all the different towns, and Mike came out with the conclusion, everybody did a little different. Some charged residents, some didn't charge residents, some didn't charge anything at all. Some used parking meters. Some use seasonal passes for residents. So I know what you want to do. I just don't want us to lose this. Does anybody have any comments or want to give any direction? Brad, in terms of monitoring the beach, I think that's something we do through Christine and in the budget, if that works for you.
Yep.
Okay. So I don't know where you want to go. I think we need to at least do something here. So I don't know what your pleasure. Yep, Dave.
The other issue we had, and I think it was, I'm not sure if I read it right in this one or not. We experienced a very rainy start to our summer, so if we didn't have a rainy start, certainly these numbers would be quite different. So I think we ought to continue the route we're on personally, see what happens next year. Because obviously the beaches they're all weather driven, completely. Mm-hmm. Except for maybe some of the swimming programs or whatever, some of those may go on rain or shine. But I think overall, the numbers for July certainly horrible. We had so much rain. My feeling is we just keep going the way we're going. That's working. I don't think we've had, if I'm correct, I don't think we've had any really days where we had access and excessive people and had to close the beaches. So, am I correct? I don't remember that we had closed any of them.
No, actually, Cary Beach was shut down temporarily for a couple days just because the parking lot was full, and that's just because we couldn't use that grass part. But we didn't have to shut down any beaches really this year because they were filled, especially Brewster. I think that was the one that we were really worried about, but they were pretty slow this year.
Yeah.
So you're voting for do nothing?
Do nothing. I mean,
Okay.
I think, yes, I think it's nice to have the numbers. But I think that sentence right in here, the Brewster totals, that, we didn't have what we'd call an average summer. I think it was more rainy than ever, especially in July. So I would feel we need some more information, say, from next year.
I'll start to Brad,
to make
and I'll
any.
come around. I'll go from Dave to Brad.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with Dave on that, the numbers are going to be off this, they're being reported now because of the July we had. And I think what we do have in place now, with our attendants at the gates there coming in, to monitor the parking lots and stuff, and then, we kind of took care of the parking situation out on Clark Road. I know we kind of addressed that with how much signage we needed out there. I think we talked about cutting that back quite a bit for this coming year. So I think I'd agree. I think, having another season of information, see if we have any issues, add any of them, and then put something together. If we do put something together, personally, I am kind of leaning towards, making all of them the same, unify the rules for all three beaches. And kind of my personal opinion anyway on that, but I think it'd be nice to have a little more information too at the same time, so we have, backup information to justify our decisions when we make it.
Okay, and I did count the number of emails and the number of comments, and we had 60 people give us either an email or a comment. So Dave, you had something else you want to say?
I just wanted to make sure that things to consider for 2022, staff the beaches a little earlier. Option of picking up beach passes here at the town hall, I think was a good idea. Trash receptacles, I thought we had some at the beaches now, we don't.
Took away trash receptacles last year. We had carry in, carry out. But I did see that was one of the comments. Yep.
I think the big thing would be the staffing of the beaches earlier. That's, you put that in your budget?
I did put it in my budget to staff it from Memorial Day through Labor Day.
Okay.
Finding the staff might be an issue, but it's in there, so we'll see.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Luke?
And then, the other thing I wanted to mention, and this is another thing I wanted to bring up, was have we thought about doing like 20 to 25 passes a day, or I don't even know how many, for people that are not residents? Would that be something we could do?
So are you saying that right now, if we leave it as is, we have 2 for beaches that are residents only and 1 beach for anybody?
Okay, so it would still be for anybody?
Yes. If we leave it alone, that's what will be.
Okay.
Do you want to try to do day passes for those other 2?
Well, no, if we're leaving it alone, that's fine. If we were going to go with the rules for the same for all the beaches, then my thought was if that came up, let's do 20 passes a day, and let's just say in May it would be Albee, in June it would be Cary, and in July it would be Brewster. That way it'd be the wealth of tourists would be spread around hypothetically, and no one beach would be overwhelmed. But if we're going to leave it alone, I'm good with that too.
Brian?
So I think that a unified set of rules, like Brad said, is good. The beaches work the way they are, that's okay also. We do have to look at our lease agreement, and if we do have a unified set of rules, our lease agreement is going to have to say that, so that there is not a confusion in the lease agreement, because it says that it's a public beach. We're leasing it as a public beach. If it becomes a beach only for the residents of Wolfeboro, then the lease agreement will have to reflect that. I also think if we go to a unified set of rules, that I don't think there are enough people that drive from far distances just to use our beaches. I think most of the people that use our beaches come here to do other things, to stay here, to stay with friends and whatnot. But I still have a feeling that Brookfield some way should be included in the use of our town beaches. They're the only town around us that doesn't have access to their own beaches. Their kids start at elementary school and go to all of our schools. They come to our Parks and Rec program. They're going to have to tuition it somehow, but they should have the ability to use our beaches. Small town, not a lot of people.
I am comfortable leaving the beaches the way they are, the way we have the ordinance. I would expect we will get petition warrant articles on these this year, and that will sort some others. I really like Luke's idea of passes, day passes, and send them to different beaches, different months. I did, my grandson goes to Brewster, my kids went to Brewster. I did have an opportunity to sit and talk to the new headmistress, and I asked her about public, and she said that if we didn't have issues at the beaches, she could go along with it staying public. In fact, public was probably what they preferred, but they were comfortable. But I agree with you, Brian. We need that defined. That's why I asked her, what do you mean by public? But remember, we are controlling the parking lot, and we totally own the parking lot. So there are a few items I think, Jim, you had in terms of wording, in terms of clarifying what we own and they own. You were emailed a draft lease, and Jim is still working on it, needs to get back to Brewster on it. We need to get that done. So what I'm gathering is we have a consensus. We're going to let everything just stay the way it is written right now. We're not going to change any ordinance. We'll go through another summer and see how things go, unless we get some kind of petition warrant article. I will note that also in the draft lease, Brewster is requiring that we have lifeguards. And am I correct, you are going to add that to your budget?
Yes, we actually did have lifeguards at Brewster when we had programs going, but I have put them in for this year.
For the whole time period?
Yep.
Whenever we are open, we need to
Yes.
have lifeguards there. Okay? And I think they want signs when our lifeguards are gone that they're swimming at their own risk. Okay, I guess we're done with that one. Next, we'll go over to the town manager for 88 Laner Street parking lot land swap.
Yeah, so you have in front of you the updated plan for the Laner Street parking lot, which reflects the requests made from the board previously. It does swap an equal section of land. It does allow for us to continue to have parking down through where we are now. Additionally, it will pick up a couple parking spaces town-wise on the other section of this. But this, basically what I need from the Board of Selectmen is an okay to move forward with the process, because this has to go in front of the planning board for the planning board and Conservation Commission. Mark Puffer did lay out the process under 4114A. So we have to get that moving in order to bring this back to the Board of Selectmen for public hearings to finalize and execute the land swap for better terms, boundary line adjustments. Any questions I may be able to answer for the board, but this kind of reflects what the feedback that was given to us previously.
Jim, just wondering, we're going to put 7 new parking spots as you go in the entrance to the left of the piece of land that we're swapping to the owner of the building?
So, I mean, the schematic for the parking will actually take place after the fact, but it's my understanding that the parking situation will be pretty much in kind.
Yeah. I mean, I look at it and I see that we can fit 7 spaces. You can't put an 8th because then the bus space and that space would be across from each other and there'd be no room. So we lose 3 spaces on the end, but the town is picking up 2 spaces behind.
That's my understanding.
So our net loss is 1.
Correct.
All right, so we are going to continue and add. So the whole roadway will be more of a road going out instead of a big open area the way it is now.
Correct.
Okay, and the only other thing is, how does this affect, and are we going to still grant the restaurant the use of the parking lot behind? And will that now be on town property where they do their outside seating behind the building if they continue to do it?
Yeah, I think the outside seating, as it's currently configured, will be going away.
It will be going away. Okay.
Okay, I'll go back to what Brian said, but that, where they have that area where they had their outside seating is their property.
Some of it, I believe, right now does infringe on what is our property, but, you know, that's going away in November. So that should not be a terrible issue to have to deal with going forward. Again, part of their vision, they would like to have their outside dining, if we get to that point, along the side of the building.
Okay, so let me do this again. That white space, behind the building that is white, is our property or their property?
That would be their property.
That is their property?
Yes.
Okay, so that whole thing out to where that end of that new section is, from their building all the way out, will be their property?
Yep.
Okay, that's what I was trying to... Does anybody have any other questions, concerns?
Just last one. The restaurant owner kind of mentioned to me that they were anticipating putting a deck out there. They would have to go through all the proper permits, this, that, and the other thing, and blah, blah, blah.
We're just dealing with swap of land. They got to go through everything else.
That's going to have to go through site plan and all that process, to which the property owner is well in tune with.
Perfect.
Thank you. We'll get this rolling through the planning section. Thank you.
Okay. Next thing is the CIP. It doesn't need to be Libby. Did you all have this sheet in your packet? Yeah, okay. This is what is on the CIP right now. As you can see, it's $26,141,000. There is all those listed under the sewer. We're going to try to apply for some federal funds. We're not going to do them all, but they're all there. So whichever one we can get the highest rating and get the most money for, we will do. The electric is within the fund, the water is within the fund, but even with the water fund, this is another group that we're going to apply for federal funds. The top section is the general fund. That's $8.76 million. And I just wanted to give you a chance to take a look at where we are, and that does not have all the capital reserve funds. It has some of them.
No Libby money on it.
Nope. So I just wanted to give you, a chance to give some thought. I think we're going to have to do some work to get some of these figures done, get some of the projects done, but there they are for you to spend some time thinking of before we get to our, get the CIP. We took care of the Libby. Next one is the master plan. You got these wonderful sheets in your packet. The 154 have been given to the Board of Selectmen. So what we had done, and I would hope each of you can do it, is I have now, meaning we need to do it this year, then in 1 to 3 years, 3 to 5, and 5 to 10. And I just kind of went down and I just checked whichever year I thought it was. And then I was hoping that we could put our names on them and give these sheets to Amy, and she could then make a master, and we could see what ones we agreed on, which ones we didn't agree on, and we could report back to the planning board on where we are on this. So if you can do that, would be great. What?
I disagree with you.
All right. Now, the next item on the agenda is the Town Dock Pilot Program. And Luke, you're going to update us on it and give us some information and let the public know what a great program it was.
I reported this back to the dock committee too as well. So we did 2 weekends. We did the Saturday of Labor Day, and we did the Saturday prior. Approximately 6 hours on day one, 4 hours on day one, and 4 hours again on Saturday of Labor Day. Myself, as well as 2 employees from Public Works, helped people dock their boats at the Wolfeboro Town Docks. It was a very gratifying. It was very well received. We got a lot of compliments, during the entire time we were there. Numerous people came up to me saying, you know, this is great to be able to come in here and not have to worry about throwing a rope around the post. On the second weekend, it was windier, and with the wind, you know, comes the hesitation to be able to dock and get in and out of tight spaces. The other comment that I continued to get throughout the time was that, you know, in a lot of cases, the boats start to gather out at the end of the docks because they can't see open spots, and having someone just say, hey, over here is an open spot, was a big help for many people. And I recounted this story at the dock committee, but we had, you know, a family, a lady was teaching her daughter how to drive the Boston Whaler in from the island. You know, she was probably 14, 15, and she said, you know, we often don't come in on the weekends because, one, we don't know if we're going to be able to get a spot, and two, just getting in and navigating, it makes her very nervous, adds a lot of stress, and just having somebody there to catch the rope and, you know, basically just guide them in. The other thing that really helped out is early on in the morning as boats started coming in, we started, you know, asking people, hey, do you want us to turn you around? Which, once you're turned around, it's a lot easier going forward out of the gauntlet of boats than it is trying to back up down that gauntlet. And that really worked well. The docks are wide enough that, you know, a 22, 23, 24-foot boat can flip around in there, even with another boat, with just a little bit of guidance from somebody who ties the rope around the front and has them put it in reverse, or uses just a couple poles to do it, and you pull them around, especially early on in the morning. So you had that period of time when it first started. We first got there on the first week at 10. There was probably an hour period where the boats were just starting to come in, and I have some pictures here that I'll share. So you have early morning, and then you have mid-morning, and then by the end of the day, you know, there were boats circling by 1 or 2 o'clock, but the spaces were full, and as opposed to having big gaps with having 3 of us there, and I'll tell you, from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock, there was literally no breaks. I mean, all 3 of us were continuously helping people park, directing them to the various things in town, where the bathrooms were, all that stuff, but nonstop from 10 to 2. And people were very gratified, very gracious. You know, they enjoyed the whole thing. It gave us an opportunity to show people how to tie up a boat. You know, you grab the rope from them, they throw it to you, you tie it up, show them how to tie it, and then hand it back to them and say, now you tie it up. So there's a lot of boating apprehension out there. There's a lot of new boaters. I mean, in the state of New Hampshire this year, 24,000 new boat registrations were issued, and that's a huge number. So you're gonna have a lot of people boating that don't necessarily have experience. It's a gateway. It's one of our gateways to Wolfeboro, getting people in and out of there, helping them navigate that, letting them know that somebody's there, you know, so that maybe they're not overstaying the entire 4 hours. They're getting in and out of there, getting their things that they need, helping them get in and out of the boat. I helped numerous people that were just uncertain on their feet, you know, just a hand onto the dock. I think it's a no-brainer, and you know, and James and Bruce, who work for Public Works, you know, they were phenomenal. We have, as I said, the dock committee, we have some really good employees in this town we were very lucky that we have people that have a vast array of skills and are very good to meet the public. And I think more people in town should get to know. It's a great opportunity for people that are coming to Wolfeboro to get to know our town employees too, and see them, you know, in action, and get to know them. So it was a really positive experience. I didn't get one negative comment until I posted it on Facebook, but you know, so but I think it was good, and I know Jim has some numbers, you know, and if we ran this during the weekends of, I believe, June, July, and August, with 3 people for, the amount of hours, this whole program could potentially cost under $8,000. So I'll hand it over to Jim at this point. I'll ask any questions too.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
My only question is, doing that, did anybody have to drive away? Or did you manage to find a spot for everybody?
I never saw someone drive away the entire time.
Perfect.
I mean, I think that I was trying, when I flew the drone around, I was kind of thinking about how long people had waited. There were probably a couple of boats that waited maximum 15 minutes. There were 1 or 2 boats where they were larger boats.
Yes.
And they were very apprehensive anyways, so they were waiting for a certain spot on the end. They were not going to run, in between a bunch of boats, which is fine. But the vast majority of people were in and out. Now, I know that those weren't the busiest days this summer, but it was a good representation. And I have been down there on other days where there's huge holes, up front, or there's holes anywhere. And it's not because sometimes people aren't necessarily scared of going up there. They just have no idea that's available. And they also have no idea that their boat's actually going to fit there, because it's very hard with the depth perception when you're in the boat and seeing over other boats to see. And it's a service that I think is it's a no-brainer. The voters were very clear. The Budget Committee was also very clear that they don't support, dock extensions. This could be another alternative that is cost-effective, and it could pay for itself in so many different ways with the town, too.
Yeah, the EDC's report said that 2,000 to 3,000 boats a summer get turned away. All we need is some dock hands, and it might be.
And we would need to define the roles and what people can and can't do, and, make sure it was open to, if we're going to use town employees, make sure it was open to, a schedule where anyone could sign up, so we didn't have any issues where someone wanted to do this and wasn't given an opportunity. It would also give the employees an opportunity to earn some extra time working during the summertime.
Yeah, I just want to thank you, Luke, for taking the initiative to follow through on this. I think as a board, we are going to learn a lot about our docks from your initiative, and I'm 100% supportive of moving forward with this type of a program. And as you said, the voters said no to extension of the docks. This is the next best thing that we can do as a board to support that area that brings in a lot of people into our community. Anybody else want to make any comments? Brad?
Yeah, I just want to echo what you just said there, Lynn. I got, thank you, Luke, for initiating that and going through with it. I had a question for you. In your time down there, did you notice, or did you have a chance to even watch down there, that end of that dock there that's for the 10-minute, the drop-off, pickup area there down kind of opposite where the fireboat is there? Were you able to see if that got used and used the way it was supposed to be used during the...
It definitely gets used. And what a lot of other people do, was what I noticed too, is there's a lot of people that feel very comfortable driving a boat. So they'll be on the cell phone and they'll be like, I'm out here on the very end of any of the docks.
Right.
And because that spot's either full or being used, literally they'll come in, nose in, family jumps in the boat, they take off. Same thing, families would be dropping off their younger kids. Dad or mom would nose into one of those docks at the end, any of the docks. Kids would jump out, But yes, I think, that 15-minute spot is a great spot. I think when it's rough out, people get really nervous about hitting the wall directly in front of it.
Put up some bumpers.
Anybody? Bumpers, yeah. Big bumper there, right?
Yeah, bumpers or tires or something.
I mean, if you're not a good boat driver, it's not a good place to come in. Any other comments? All righty, other business. I have a couple of them. We were asked, I think, at the last meeting or the meeting before in public input on how in the heck did Pop Whalen Ice Arena and Art Center how come the Art Center was added to that name. Christine took a picture of a plaque on the wall, and it was named the Pop Whalen Ice Arena and Art Center, January 7th, 1989. So it's been that for a long period of time. I also heard at a chamber executive board meeting that the Mount Washington is now coming into town Monday through Saturday, and that's a real great addition. And I'm glad they're back up and able to get all the way over here. I also need from each one of you your town manager's evaluation. If you can email it to me, it would be great. If you have it here tonight, I will take it. I have to take all the comments and stuff off of them and put them together. If you email it to me, I can cut and paste. If I have to retype, it just takes me a little bit longer. So, and based on our schedule, we will, as a board, go into non-public on the 22nd to review our comments. And the last thing, and this is one that Dave Senecal reminded me of last time that I had forgotten, to assign the meals for our budget hearing. The first one that we start at 6 will be next Wednesday, the 22nd. There's October 6th, 7th, 12th, 14th, 18th, 25th, 27th, and 28th. So who would like to do September 22nd?
I'll do that one.
Okay, Dave's going to do the 22nd. Who would like to do October 6th?
I will do that, Linda.
Jim, okay. October 7th, I'll do that one. October 12th,
Sure.
Luke?
Yep.
I'm on for 14th.
Brian, you're on for the 14th. And I think Amy's going to be our secretary.
That is correct.
Let's see if we can get her to do the 18th. And if not, I'll talk to her. We'll have to, and then we'll wait until whether we need those at the end and how long they're going to be.
I didn't get one yet.
Oh, I didn't get you? Ah,
Well, I'm
I
not
guess which
complaining,
one
but
you have.
get the 18th, don't I?
You get the 18th, and then I'll just ask Amy if she wants to pick up one of the other ones. All righty. Well, thank you, Dave, for reminding me about that. All righty. Anybody else? Other business? Hearing none, I'll start down this end this time for committee reports. Brian?
I attended 2 capital improvement plan meetings with Linda, but she'll address those because I'm the alternate. And I attended an ad hoc doc committee meeting, but Luke just said just about, well, there was a little bit more that went on about that. We talked about the repair of the commercial docks, and I think we're still in discussions whether it will be a single phase or a second or 2 phase. And we talked about the parking lot, and it seemed to have some contention whether or not we were going to do drainage on the parking lot when we paved the parking lot. And that didn't make much sense to myself and other people there, because why spend all that money on the commercial docks, on the recreational docks, pave the parking lot, and then still have a drainage problem where you have pollution going into the bay? So hopefully that gets straightened out.
Luke?
I attended the Wolfeboro Waters meeting on this past week. I also attended the doc committee meeting where I spoke about the program. And tonight's Heritage Commission meeting was moved to next week.
Okay, I attended 2 CIP meetings, and I gave my report as that written spreadsheet so you all can see where we are. I've attended 4 Libby Museum Search Committee meetings. We're looking for a new librarian, and so we've met with the staff. We had to get an ad together, and so they're moving along. They're well organized. I'm very pleased. I went to the Chamber Executive Board meeting. I've had a Friends of Pop Whalen meeting. I had 2 Wolfeboro Waters meeting, the one in the regular schedule meeting, and I also went to the meeting at 5 about stormwater regulations. And I was at the ad hoc doc committee meeting. 3 of us attended, and we did notice it that we were all going to be there. Dave?
I had two meetings, one Friends of Abenaki, which was out at the lodge, and a Conservation Commission meeting, which they are now meeting at the library meeting room.
Brad?
Yeah, I had last week we had a planning board meeting. This morning, actually attended a Wolfeboro Community TV meeting. And also, last week we had a Friends of Libby Museum meeting, talking about what was going to go on here tonight. And also attended that on Monday night, the Stormwater Subcommittee, Stormwater Management Subcommittee meeting. I attended with, you were there with, we had a couple of stakeholders who can call for the Lake Wentworth Association and also the Wolfeboro Waters, right?
Yeah, and I guess nobody from Conservation came. They got
That's right.
comments from Conservation,
comments
but
from them,
nobody showed up, yeah.
We're going to move forward in was there some group meetings to look at our stormwater management policies that we're presenting and stuff, so and that was it for me.
Okay. Next on the agenda, Town Manager's Report.
A couple of items into budgets. We've been doing budget reviews all week, going well. In fact, in front of you tonight, you have got the packet for the agencies for next Wednesday. And we're hopeful to have the bulk of the budget done early next week. So that's ongoing. Attending CIP meetings, we've got another one coming up this Friday. That's moving along nicely. Attended the ad hoc docs committee meeting. Good dialogue there. I anticipate the boundary survey is underway this time, so we're hopeful to have that in for the next meeting so that we can invite the stakeholders in to have conversations about the future of the parking lot. As you are aware, Mr. Burt would like to retire from the treasurer's position. We have had the position advertised. We have not had really any interest. So if anybody out there is interested in becoming our treasurer, there's information on the town website about it, or you can reach out to Amy in the office. And lastly, we have an agreement with the farmers market to not hold the farmers market in future years at the Clark Park. That was brought to us by citizens on Clark Road. As a result of that, the Board of Selectmen evaluated the request and the threat of a lawsuit. Through discussions, it was determined that the farmers market is outgrowing that location, so we've agreed not to hold the farmers market there in the future. If there are individuals who would like to know more, I would request that you reach out to Amy or myself relative to that, but that agreement is done. And I know there's been a lot of questions about that in the community, but that's where we're at this point, and if there are specific questions, people can reach out to me directly. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is questions from the press. Alyssa, do you have any questions?
Let me turn on my mic here. Oh, man. I just want to say I do know from the farmers market manager that they are planning to move to the NIC next year. And that the management there is very happy to have them. So that will be a big change, but it might offer some conveniences for shoppers as well. It doesn't have the shade, but it will offer other amenities. So it looks like that's going to work out okay. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is public input. Do I have any public input? Hearing and seeing none, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Do I have a second? All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right.